All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to break down an analysis that makes a pretty bold claim that the American system isn't just struggling, it's actually showing all the classic historical signs of a collapse. We're going to walk through the evidence, the diagnosis, and what the potential paths forward might look like, all based on the analysis of some of the best economists. So the big question right off the bat is America really on the brink? I know it sounds incredibly dramatic, but the analysis we're digging into today argues that if you tune out the day-to-day noise and look at the vital signs, the social, political, and economic ones, a lot of them are flashing bright, bright red. To get our heads around this, let's just start with one single number. $1.1 trillion. Yeah, according to the analysis, that's how much the U.S. is on track to spend this year just on interest payments for its national debt. It's a number so massive, it's almost impossible to really picture. And this chart is where that number gets really shocking. For the very first time, the interest on the debt, that's that huge bar on the left, is going to be more than the entire defense budget. More than all the spending on Medicare. I mean, think about that. When the cost just to service your old debt is bigger than funding your military or taking care of your seniors, that's not just a small problem. That's a sign that the very foundation is cracking. Okay, so let's dive into the first part of this analysis. It starts by looking at the symptoms, the visible cracks that are starting to show up in the social fabric. These are the things that people feel every single day, even if they can't quite name what's causing them. And what's so fascinating here is you can literally see a kind of psychological freefall. Just look at that first number. Only 38% of Americans now think the U.S. is the greatest country on earth. The source says that's a 30-point drop in just 6 years. That's not a slow leak, that's a plunge. It's like the basic ideas that used to hold the country together are just dissolving. And here's another really critical symptom. It seems like we're all living in different realities now. Sure, people trust their own side's news, but look at the overall trust in the media. It's cratered to just 28%. The argument here is that this makes it basically impossible to have a real national conversation because we can't even agree on what the basic facts are anymore. And if we don't fix these social cracks, the analysis warns that history gives us a pretty chilling and predictable roadmap. It starts with people losing faith in things like elections. Then the political extremes get louder and the middle ground vanishes. The next step, political violence, starts to feel, normal. And it often ends with people getting so tired of the chaos that they willingly trade their freedom for a strong leader who promises to restore order. So here's the crucial point. All of that social and political chaos we just talked about, that's not the actual disease. It's just the symptom. The underlying diagnosis points to something much deeper, something more fundamental, an economic foundation that's been rotting away for decades. And this slide really paints a grim picture of that decay. According to the analysis, real wages have basically been stuck in the mud for 50 years, even while workers got twice as productive. At the same time, the price of a typical house has soared to over 5 times what a typical person earns. For a whole generation, that basic American promise, work hard and you'll get ahead, it just feels broken. Now, to really drive home how serious this economic situation is, the analysis brings in a heavy hitter, legendary investor Ray Dalio. His whole framework suggests that the U.S. isn't at the beginning of this problem, though. We're in stage 5, which is the chaotic final phase right before a potential total collapse. And this chart lays out that exact cycle the source is talking about. And you can see where we are, right there, stage 5. According to this model, this is the part where all the economic pain from that massive debt load starts to boil over into social and political chaos. Sound familiar? It's exactly what we were just looking at. Okay, so let's move on to the prognosis. If things keep going on this track, what does the world even look like? The analysis argues we're not just talking about trouble at home, but about a massive, once-in-a-century shift in who holds power on the world stage. I mean, just look at this table. It's a complete reversal in just a few decades. The U.S. went from being the world's undisputed factory floor to a secondary player, while China rocketed up to become the dominant manufacturing power on the planet. This is the economic engine that's driving that global power shift. And this whole dynamic, a rising China and a declining America, it puts the two countries right into a classic and very dangerous historical pattern. It's called the Thucydides trap. It's that incredible tension that gets created when a new power comes along and challenges the old one for the top spot. And history's track record here is not good. Out of the last 16 times a rising power has challenged a ruling one, 12 of them ended in an all-out war. This isn't just some academic theory, it's a historical pattern that shows just how risky the current geopolitical climate really is. The analysis also game plans what happens if America loses its ultimate superpower, the dollar being the world's go-to currency. That exorbitant privilege, as it's called, would just disappear. Imports would suddenly become crazy expensive. Capital could leave the country. The entire American way of life, which is kind of built on being able to borrow endlessly, would have to change, fundamentally. So after laying out this incredibly grim diagnosis and prognosis, the analysis doesn't just leave us there. It actually offers a potential prescription. It lays out a series of really difficult but necessary steps to try and steer the ship away from the iceberg. And the core of this economic solution is a concept, again from Ray Dalio, called a beautiful deleveraging. The idea isn't just to default on the debt or inflate it away. It's about navigating a very, very narrow and difficult path back to being solvent. It's like walking a tightrope over a canyon. And to walk that tightrope, you have to pull on these 4 levers all at the same time in perfect balance. You need some spending cuts, but not so much that you cause a depression. You restructure the debts, you print some money to cushion the blow, and you redistribute resources to where they can do some good. The analysis is super clear on this. If that balance is off, the whole thing fails. You either get a deflationary collapse or you get hyperinflation. But beyond just dealing with the debt, the prescription calls for a complete rebuild of the economic foundation. The source suggests concrete things like reindustrializing critical sectors, making it easier to build houses so they're more affordable. And this is a big one. Rebuilding a shared American story that actually unites people around common goals instead of tearing them apart. So, in the end, the analysis leaves us right here, at a crossroads. The path of decline, it's pretty well worn. We've seen it over and over in history. The path of renewal, that's the hard one. It's politically unpopular, and it requires immense discipline and a sense of shared sacrifice. The analysis isn't claiming to know which path will be chosen, only that a choice has to be made. So, what's it going to be?